And then suddenly the boat dropped like 6 feet.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so I just felt it from under me just drop. And then I landed back on it, and I remember like my ribs hurting because I ended up on the side of the boat, between the bench and the wall of the boat. And then I just remember the Fijians like yelling something. I had no idea what they were talking about. And mind you, no one had life jackets on.
Of
Why?
course.
Fijians are very laid back. That's their time, laid back style, right? And so they told us where the life jackets were. They showed us where the life jackets were, but we didn't wear any because they're like, nothing ever happens here.
Yeah.
Man. Anyway, so the boat started turning towards the outer ocean, and we were actually already partway up a rogue wave, and it was about 2 to 3 stories high. And so I remember specifically it getting dark because the water was becoming more opaque. And I thought, okay, I can see this like going into the wave. We'll just like go right through it. Right? Physics. Clearly, I have no left side of my brain at that point because I'm like, oh yeah, the boat's just gonna go straight through. I see the tip going in the water. And then I remember facing the wave, and my brother ran up to the front of the boat. My dad was like clutching his side. My uncle was trying to help him up because my dad was injured. And then, like in those, I don't know, the best analogy I can use is like Naruto, right? The anime. And then you have like water coming towards you, like daggers. Yep. That's literally what it looked like. So those anime illustrators, spot on. So it was like these points of water coming at me. It hurt my face, man. That water was rough. And then the next thing I knew, I was underwater. So the boat had capsized and I completely overturned, and I was just tumbling around like a rag underneath the waves. And I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Holy crap. And I couldn't remember which way was up. I was trying to hold on for dear life, my breath. And I was like, oh man, this is what it feels like to drown. This is terrible. And so I finally found my way up. Oh, most freshest breath of air I've ever breathed. And it's like water coming out of my nose. I'm like choking and water. I'm like, I can't even talk. And I'm looking around, and I'm at the bottom of the next wave because it's coming. Right. And I was like, where the frick is everyone? I saw my dad like 2 yards away, my brother the other direction, the boat over there, my great uncle holding on for dear life, and he can't swim. And he has no life jacket on. So I found out he was actually holding on to the propeller with his belt for dear life. And he had like blood dripping down his face. It was like Cassie all over again. And so the next wave came, and then I tumbled down some more. And then I remembered from this book called The Art of Possibility by Benjamin Zander, who is a conductor in the States. And there's this one section of where his wife wrote about whitewater rafting. And she said, I fell asleep on the bus, but I remember very specifically in the instructions from the staff that were there, don't fight the current, nose to knees, knees to nose, right? So that's what I did. I didn't fight the current, and I just kept myself like in a little ball almost, let myself be tumbled around. And I'm thinking to myself, this is how people die, even really vivid, avid swimmers, because it's so tiring. You run out of breath. And so by like the 4th or 5th wave, it's calmed down. My great uncle, and one of the staff members, NATO, is on the boat, but the boat is stuck on the reefs now. And then he's trying to go down and get the life jackets, but he can't do it because the waves are too rough. And then my great uncle, is just lying on the boat, blood just dripping down the boat, and he's just unconscious. And then my dad, my brother, and Ace and myself, my dad actually managed to hold on to the fish bag. So there was a little bit of buoyancy, just a little bit. So it's kind of like those mats you get in gym class, right? So Ace was like, swim to your dad, swim to your dad. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to swim to my dad. And thank God it was tropical waters, or else we would have been dead because we had to swim for 3.5 hours toward shore. What? So imagine the islands are here, we're over here, and the current keeps pushing us this way. So we're swimming
Oh
against
my
the current
God.
and trying to get to the island. So we actually managed to get to a floating restaurant called Cloud Nine, I think. You can find it on Google Maps. And when we were like screaming help, help, or whatever, no one could hear us. We had two choppers pass over us and they didn't see us. It was so disheartening actually. And then I had no idea if my dad had broken his rib, whatever, because he's like, I can't yell, I can't breathe, blah blah blah. My brother was unscathed. He didn't even lose his phone, which is a miracle for some reason.
Wow.
But it was like beyond repair, right?
Yeah.
I lost all my crap. My dad lost his PR card and everything. It's crazy. And then by the time the boat saw us, we got on board. I remember my nose being like a leaky faucet. And for some reason, like the people who were there, the tourists who were on that restaurant, they're just taking their time, right? Paying, and oh, I forgot to go pay something, go back. And they're all like partially inebriated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we finally drive back to where my great uncle and Nito were, and they're like, oh my God, you should have just left. This is clearly more serious than us paying for our bills. I'm like, yeah, but like we could, because the island is just so heavily relied on tourism, right? And so we finally got back to one of the islands. We actually had tourists who were doctors come look at us because the health services there were just so slow and low staffed, like very low staffed. And so we left at 8 in the morning. We didn't get back to our hotel until 1 or 2 a.m. So my dad ended up having like one of his muscles get lodged in between his ribs, and I had a concussion and a gash from a propeller blade on the back of my head. And then my brother was unscathed. He actually walked back to the place we were staying, this particular type of hotel, and I was like, oh yeah, how was fishing, how'd it go? He has no sandals, by the way, and he's like, so our boat capsized. And then my great aunt, she was like so pale when he said that. He said, because she's like, Uncle Bart can't swim, right? You can imagine the dread you'd feel if your partner is out and you know the boat capsized. So turns out he got scalped. It was like that. Something scalped him. He needed like, I don't know how many, 50 something stitches, 80 something stitches, I'm not sure. There's a photo of it on my on that post. It was a nice big U scar. And but he's fine now. And it was hilarious because the next day he emceed for the wedding. He was fine. Such a tough cookie.
Okay. That guy is a savage.
Oh yeah, but with that being said, this whole story, right, kind of realigned and reprioritized a lot of things that were important to me, right? Including just living now and giving what you can now. It's important to plan ahead for things, but not to the point where you're not living the present. And as cheesy as it sounds, like Kung Fu Panda or whatever, that's why they say today is a gift, because it's present, right?
Right.
This is Rao Talk.